This episode is brought to you by Lash Boss Summit. Lash Boss Summit is 2 full days of education in Austin, Texas on April 26th and 27th. The lineup is incredible. There are so many talented and genuine people on stage, so you're going to walk away with a ton of lash artistry and business strategy after that weekend. Not only that, there is built-in networking opportunities so that you can make new friends and connections while you're here. Your ticket also includes breakfast and lunch on both days, and all of this could be under $500 if you use code LashBossRadio. Lash Boss Summit is regarded as being incredibly impactful but not overwhelming in the sense of it was designed to reduce anxiety and just be very warm and welcoming and just deliver a ton of value. The lineup, agenda, and tickets can all be found on lashbosssummit.com. I'd really like to see you there. I promise you it will be more than worth it. Enjoy this episode, and I hope to see you in April. Welcome back to Lash Boss Radio. I'm Shelby, your host, and today I have a very special guest, someone I have been wanting on the show for so long. Otto Mitter, the owner and director of Elleebana, is joining us today for the first time on Lash Boss Radio. Welcome, Otto.
Thank you very much for having me, Shelby. I can't believe we're finally doing this.
I know.
I love in the email title you sent to me, it was like, finally.
I know. We've been talking about it for years, and that's probably more so on me than you, or definitely is, but you're here now.
Well, we've both had so much going on, and we've seen each other a bit at obviously events over the years, but I was super privileged to be a speaker for Lash Boss Summit when it was online back in 2020, I think it was.
Yep.
When everything was shut down, and we did that session, and that was super cool. Loved that. So I am stoked, as we say, to be on the show with you.
Yeah, and I'm excited that you're going to be at Lash Boss Summit in the flesh this April in 2 months.
Oh, I am pumped for that. I've never been to Texas before, so I'm not sure if there's any etiquette that I need to know about. Do I need to bring a cowboy hat?
You can, if you wanted to. I will not be wearing a cowboy hat, but I will be wearing cowboy boots. So, yeah.
Yes. I was thinking boots, hat. Look.
That would be really great if you did that.
Yeah. I'm very, very tempted. So I'll have to do a little bit of research there. And I don't know if this offends anyone, but I'm a bit of a Yellowstone fan. And in that show, they go to Texas, and just seeing all the history there with what's happened in Texas over the years, I find it fascinating. Obviously, being from Australia, we have a bit of a cowboy culture here. I guess it's a little different.
Cool.
But it is going to be cool. I've never been there, so I'm really looking forward to it.
Cool. I never heard of the cowboy culture in Australia. I need to research that a little bit and look it up, what it's like. That's
well, they're pretty rough out here, out in the outback, as we call it. But there's a lot of people, rounding up livestock. That's a big part of the cattle industry in Australia, because I think we do produce a fair bit of beef here. So there's, pretty big culture sort of out west, we call it.
Cool.
With you guys too.
No, that's awesome. Okay, so can we just hear a little bit about Elleebana history? I'd love to know how Elleebana came about, why lash lifts and not just go straight into lash extensions. You guys are one of the biggest lash brands, if not the biggest. So I'd love to hear just a little bit of history. And then also, second part to that question is your history. How did you get involved with the industry?
Oh, wow. What a journey it has been, and what a question. Okay, well, if everyone grabs their hot cup of cocoa and puts on their cozy toesies, we'll get started. No, it's been a really, really long journey and story. And if I go back to the beginning, I'm a second generation beauty educator. So my mother was a bit of a pioneer in Australia for the beauty industry. And she wrote the very first diploma of beauty therapy in Australia, which was the first government accredited course. Everything was unregulated here in Australia when it came to beauty treatments. You had beautification treatments, but that was more like you'd go down to the salon, you'd get waxing, they might do some makeup, but there was no formal qualification for it. So my mother helped develop the formal qualification, and she had one of the first health, wellness, and slimming clinics in Australia at the time. This is going back early 80s. And she had a lot of politicians' wives and diplomats and people like that that would come to her clinic. She was in Canberra, which is the capital of Australia. And it was a very successful business for her. And I was, a little guy, obviously, born in Canberra. And there's a joke around the office that I was born under the massage table. It doesn't sound too good, but it's kind of almost true because 3 weeks after I was born, my mother was just such a hard worker. She brought me in the little bassinet and I was under the massage table while she was doing treatments on clients. So I have just been surrounded by the beauty industry since birth. And my mother had a beauty school as well and a hairdressing salon and, this slimming clinic. So she was, heavily involved in the industry. And I just grew up with this over the years. Fast forward to the end of high school, I thought to myself, what am I going to do? I'm at a bit of a crossroads here. Wasn't quite sure what to do. Mum said, why don't you come to the school and learn something at my beauty academy? I thought, okay, what could I do? And I was quite creative. So I went and studied makeup and I did my Cert 4 in photographic makeup and I did a few weddings. I did a few photo shoots, got a little scared after I did that.
Mhm.
I met a couple of bridezillas. I'm like, whoo,
Yeah.
it's tough gig. And, but I learned a lot from that. And, at the beauty school, I learnt the basics of makeup, lashes, brows, brow shaping and tinting, those sorts of things. And then I left the industry for a while and I went and did music, funnily enough. And I was a professional musician for about 10 years, but on and off through that period, I was still, dabbling in the beauty industry because my family was so involved in it. And then I went and studied my diploma of personal care formulation and advanced cosmetic science. Went and got right into the world of formulation. That stuff really interested me. So I studied that, got my degree with that, and then started really working on the development of products. Now, my mother actually came up with the name Elleebana. She actually started the brand right back in the beginning and it actually was a skincare range at the time. And a lot of people don't know this in the States, but Elleebana stands for Peace, Tranquility, and Beauty in Australian Indigenous Culture. So we really wanted an Australian name for this brand. And that kind of went back to Australia's roots, with this particular name. And so mum started this skincare range and it was quite successful, actually. It was doing quite well. But then she sort of revamped her college and that started really taking off. And she's trained thousands of beauty students over the years. And, that was just booming. And I sort of came back into the industry and then I said, well, they asked me if I could come in and help. So I did. And I started bringing a little bit more flavor to the table in the lash and brow world. Now, they were already doing lash and brow tinting. That was a big part of our business at the time. And tinting has been around for, I'm going to say 70, 80 years, something like that. It's been a really long time. And we had quite a good little distribution business in Australia going with tinting. And then we started developing eyelash perms because they started becoming quite popular throughout Asia. That's where it really started taking off. And I'm going to say early 90s, 94, 95, 96, something like that. Eyelash perming was happening then, guys. Yes, that's going back a
Gosh.
bit. But that was happening well before extensions. And we were developing those products because it worked really well with tinting. It's a really harmonious treatment that just complements each other perfectly. So perming obviously doesn't sound great. Eyelash perming, everyone's thinking, that's, a little strange. I don't want to perm my eyelashes. However, it was still a good service, and I was still able to get a pretty good result with an eyelash perm rod back in the day. And, it was taking off. We always knew the potential of it. Fast forward probably about 8 years more, and lash extensions started coming in. And we started getting involved with lash extensions as well. That really took off in Korea, Asia, Cosmoprof, Hong Kong. There was people there starting to do lash extensions, and a lot of people from Eastern Europe were traveling there. We were traveling there. And this is going back before social media was really doing anything, right? I was involved in the industry. I've been in the industry 20 years now, like heavily working full time in the industry. And when lash extensions was coming out, yeah, social media was just kind of starting to bubble away. And that's when people started really seeing lash extensions, because people were spreading the information more. But we used to be on the ground. I'd have to travel to Cosmoprof Bologna to see what was new, or Cosmoprof in Asia to see what was new. You couldn't actually find it on the internet. It was quite difficult. So you had to get on the plane, you had to go over and see people, you had to bring the products back to your country, and then you had to do advertising in trade magazines. You had to do that old school form of building your business. You'd do seminars, you'd do classes, you'd travel around to regional places, and you'd build your brand. You couldn't just jump on social media and post about it and do ads and everyone would see it easily. So it was a different kind of way of building your business back then. And anyway, we started, you know, growing that section of the business a lot more. And then um, lash lift started becoming the new way to evolve with lash perming. And we were on the forefront of that, as well as a couple of other companies. LVL in England were quite synonymous with helping pioneer that name, lash lifting. And when that all started, it started changing the game and the mindset of a lot of people offering these treatments. So I started touring around the world. I was already traveling, doing some demos on stage from like about 2013. I started doing exhibitions and just working on stands and doing demos and doing some stage demos. And then when the eyelash extensions conferences started getting more popular, I sort of just contacted people. I was hosting a lot of lash extensions masters in Australia, like Loretta from Flawless Lashes, or, going back to Hilary Brand, or, Eva Zacharias, Peter Lotchke, just a lot of the old school people in the industry. I was working with them, bringing them out to Australia. And then I said to them, hey, how about I come along to your conferences and I'll talk about lash lifting and tinting, because no one was doing it. And they said, oh, yeah, you know what? That could be cool. Yeah, I'll make a few calls. So it really started kicking off in Europe. I was already selling products into the USA at around 2013 or something. We just started doing small amounts there, but I hadn't really launched with my education that hard at that point in the US. I was doing a lot in Australia. But yeah, I kind of started doing these conferences in Europe, Russia, USA, and I was the first kind of person in the industry, and I was this guy talking about lash lifting, and everyone in the lash extensions industry just went, "This sounds cool. We want to expand our services. This sounds amazing." And after every conference, I got off stage and people would come up to me and say, "Otto, I love what you're talking about here. Tell me more. Can I distribute the products? Can you make me a product? Can you, this is interesting." And really, after that first year or two, everyone started talking about lash lifting. There was like lash lifting speakers everywhere and brands starting to pop up. So, it was a really pivotal moment in the lash lift industry. It just started booming around that time. And, there was a couple of pioneers along with myself that really helped that movement to become, a little bit more of what it's evolved into today. So it's been an interesting journey there. But yeah, I sort of started focusing more on the USA a little bit more around 2015, 2016. I came over to Las Vegas, set up a team, did a big training there, and had a lot of educators that we sort of launched. And I remember the person I was working with at the time, she said, "Do you think this is going to last? Do you think Lash Lift's actually going to last?" And I said the words, "Get ready."
Aw.
And I said, "Because you are going to be busy. This is not going anywhere. This is an amazing service, and natural lash enhancement is a great alternative for lash extension stylists to have in their menu." And she was like, "Okay, yeah, cool." And then, sure enough, it just kept growing and growing. So, we built this education team, into what Elleebana is today, where we have a lot of educators in the USA and around the world. I think we have around 300 educators using our program and, licensing that and teaching our methods and, selling our training courses. And, it's just continued to boom and it's been interesting. I've worked with a lot of people in the industry that are now, they came and trained with me and they were selling Elleebana and distributing it, and now they're doing their own brands. The whole industry has just boomed because Elleebana was definitely a very influential part of the lash lift movement
Yeah.
throughout the world. And it still is today. And we're having, even I think it's 29 years this year, Elleebana has sort of been in the industry, which is pretty crazy for a brand to be around that long. And I have to say, we're having some of the biggest years in the history of the company over the last, 5 years. I mean, it's always been growing and growing, but it's incredible to still be here and have the support from so many amazing beauticians, estheticians, lash artists, and we're just continuing to develop on our journey with more innovations and helping give back to the industry a lot with amazing education, innovative products, and a lot of support. So, in a nutshell, that's a bit of the story of how we got
Wow.
where we did today.
I had no idea that it had been that long. I really didn't, because I just started in the industry in 2013, so I guess that's around. I just kind of figured it was kind of like the lash brands that all popped up around that time. But wow, that's really interesting. So I have to ask this too, because I remember when I first heard about you guys back then, you guys just had like one system type, I think. And now, how many are there and what are the differences between them?
Yes, we started off with our flagship product, which is the Elleebana One Shot Lash Lift, and there wasn't many brands that had products in sachets at the time. There was brands that had products in bottles or ampules. We had ampules back then too. And the problem with that, with perming solution, is the oxidization process that can happen once it's exposed to air, and you can lose that potency a little bit. And there's no telling exactly when that moment is going to come. You can have a best before date, but people were suffering a little bit from inconsistencies with results. Due to that oxidization process. So, Elleebana developed a sachet system, hence the one shot system. It was like enough for one application every time. And that particular system is known for its speed when you're doing the treatment process. So, it's really good for resistant lashes and obviously cutting your treatment time down. Still a very, very popular product, but in 2020, I released Elleplex Profusion, which is a product line that I was developing for a couple of years. And it's based on using cysteamine hydrochloride as the active. That has been around for quite a long time in the hair industry with hair perms. But the benefit with cysteamine hydrochloride is the more neutral pH that it kind of lives in that world. You can have a higher pH now with that as well. Like the formulations have changed a lot. But generally, the way cysteamine works is it's inserting the cysteine molecule into the disulfide bonds when you're doing the treatment process. So therefore, it's allowing that structural integrity that was originally there in the lash. It's kind of putting that back into the lash a little bit more. So overall, you are having a stronger, healthier lash after that chemical process. So there's a lot of advantages with that. However, it tends to be a little bit slower in the application process. There's things you can do to add heat, to speed up the process with some heat evolution. It also depends on the hair textures that you're working with. It can still be fast, but generally it's a little bit longer than TGA or ammonium thioglycolate systems. And it's a very, very popular system. It can be used on brows as well, but we love using Eliplex Profusion because, for the right type of hair texture and overall, it is healthier for lashes. In saying that, you can use the Thio systems, and as long as you know what you're doing, lashes are going to be healthy. It's just like lash extensions application as well. Apply the lashes correctly, you'll have healthy lashes. So it does come down to understanding the products and the technicalities of it. But we wanted to have just the best of both worlds, I guess, for lash artists, because lash extensions artists are super, super on point about lash health. And for a long time, they didn't love lash lifts. There was that kind of period where there was that adjustment period, I think, where, people that weren't doing lash lifts correctly were over curling, over processing, drying out the lashes or damaging lashes. And of course, lash extensions artists were like, don't touch lash lift products because, that's what you'll do to the lashes. But over time, the education has got better and better, and people have just started realizing, if I apply this correctly, I'm going to get great results and my clients' lashes will be healthy. So, in a nutshell, again, it was just about the evolution of Elleebana and making sure that we have more offerings for our clients. I feel like for a brand to progress, just sitting on the same thing forever is not obviously going to be exciting for clients. Even though you've got a great formulation that works really well, it's always good to keep moving, keep things fresh, keep things exciting. And, that's what we do.
Yeah, and I noticed like even just little additions to the line, like different types of shields come out, or like the little covers for the lashes that are on the rod or shields, like those little changes is just I don't know. I just noticed like that being a thing too in the lash lift world, like little tiny changes that are making like a big difference to the process and stuff. I was also one of those people in the beginning that I didn't love. I think I was more scared of lash lifts because I would go into every single one wondering, is this the right time? Am I going to not do it enough or do it too much? And like, I guess we'll see when they come back. And I just used to feel scared towards it. So I would more so want somebody, like, let's just do extensions on you. It's going to be much better. But now lash lifts is something that we do so much of every single day. I do have a question about, so TikTok has, it has captured everyone's time. Like I feel like everyone spends so much time on TikTok, but I see a lot of DIY lash lifts at home from people buying like kits off of Amazon or something. What do you think about that? Do you guys talk about that inside of y'all's meetings? Like, has it changed y'all's sales at all? Does that scare y'all at all? Does it make you feel like, no, this is fine because they'll be getting professional treatments after they mess up their lashes? Like, what is that like?
Yeah, it's an interesting topic, isn't it? In fact, we had an influencer recently, Patrick Starr. I don't know him that well, and I'm going to admit this. Elleebana has a TikTok. I don't. I'm pretty
It's probably
busy,
a good thing.
so I don't. I get on socials and I should do it a lot more, but I'm just so busy these days that, I work with my team very closely with social media, doing a lot of direction. I do some content, but we are producing a lot of educational content all the time, and they take care of TikTok. But it is interesting. This influencer, Patrick Starr, who has millions of followers, I think, he had many millions of views on this video that he did using our product, and he was doing it at home. Um, and he is a trained esthetician, mind you. So he's a makeup artist and he knows what he's doing. And he did say in the video, don't try this at home, kids. Disclaimer. But you know, after he did that video, he sort of showed the result. He did the lash lift. A lot of salon owners were upset by it because obviously it doesn't promote going to the salon and having this done professionally. And Elleebana always promotes that. We do not promote using these products at home. All of our products have professional use only on the labeling and strict guidelines around that. And so we're big supporters of the industry and professional use only with those particular products. And I guess a lot of salon owners, some of them were even angry at Elleebana. They were like, how can you endorse this? And I didn't even know about it. You know, this guy grabbed our products, used our products. We don't have any control over those sorts of things. We do our best as a brand to obviously, spread the message that you shouldn't do this at home. But sometimes, it's very difficult to control that. But what we did say to the salon owners is obviously it's not something we endorse, but we do see this as an opportunity for you to start talking to the wider industry and the consumer about how important it is to come to a salon, to have this service. So when you see those things online, generally when I've seen most of the DIY results, I haven't been overly impressed with what I've seen online. I'm sure there's people that can do it well for themselves, but being in the beauty industry, there's nothing better than going into the salon and having that treatment done on you, being pampered. That's what people love. And I think that will never die because it's just that moment where you get to yourself, and you get to talk to your lash stylist and have that moment of connection and know that they're going to do an amazing job for you, and they'll probably do your brows, or they might do other things for you as well while you're there. I'm not really too worried about it. DIY lash lifting has kind of been around for a while. It has been many years that I've seen it happen, and we're only seeing the professional industry boom more and more. I know TikTok is huge, and it's definitely spreading that message more and more that you can be a little more DIY with certain things. I guess we'll have to see how it all goes, but I'm not too worried, to be honest. I feel quite confident that consumers out there enjoy seeing their lash stylist and they want that moment of connection and professionalism, being worked on then.
Yeah, I would think that it probably does help in a way, because we have clients sometimes that they'll come in and they'll say, hey, I messed up my lashes because I tried a kit at home, and can you fix them? So we do use it as an opportunity, but just out of curiosity, I had to ask. So I would love to ask you, just what are some of your biggest tips that you have for somebody to just level up their lash lifts a little bit? You don't have to give us everything, but just what would you say are like the top 1 or 2 tips?
Ooh, yeah. Ooh, that's a tough one. There's so many aspects to getting a great result with lash lifting. Something I've spoken a lot about over the years is, I call it lotion process theory. And that's basically reading the hair texture. Some people here might have seen my YouTube videos from way back talking about the importance of analyzing hair texture and knowing the kind of texture that you're working on. And obviously the type of lotions that you're using. And you can check visually on the texture during the service. So you can see if the lashes are a little more flexible, and you can also see when the setting lotion's working. So there's little tricks there that you can use to just reinforce and recheck that the lotions have actually done their job. So analyzing the lashes is super important at the consultation, making sure you're getting a good scope on what the texture is. And then from there, check the lashes during that service. Some people call it control checking. I like to call it flex checking for step one. And then we've got set checking for step two. And this is something that's been done in the hair industry for many, many years. Um, we were One of my trainers was talking to me about set checking, and actually one of my mum's educators back in her school, because she was an old hairdresser from back in the day doing hair perms, and they used to just check that the curl was there after the neutralizer had been on for a while, just to make sure that the curl was tight enough. So there's certain little tricks there that can help you feel a little more confident that that lotion has done its job. So that's probably one of the biggest things that's trending quite a bit at the moment in the lash lift industry, is just people getting their heads around how to understand lotion process theory and how to check the lashes for when they're ready, so that you avoid that underwhelming result. Another thing I talk a lot about is probably glue control. That's quite important as well. It comes under that banner of lotion process theory a little bit as well, but you want to make sure that you're using the correct amount, not too much, so that it's forming a barrier on the lashes that would slow the process down, because you're wanting to optimize the treatment process. You're wanting it to be as fast as possible and not have any delays. You also want the lashes to be sitting in place during that lotion process step. That's one of the things, especially during the setting step, when you're locking them into place, you're wanting that flawless symmetry and perfect positioning. And so getting the glue control right and using those compensators can help as well. But, for many years, we've got great lash lifts without having to use those. But it's a good thing to get efficient with. And that's, depending on the glue that you're using. Some are a little slower setting, some have a fast moment of setting as well. So you have to understand how that adhesive works in the environment that you're working in. And then you obviously need to work out how quickly you can put that on the sections of the shield that you're working on. As you get more advanced, you're just putting adhesive across the whole section, and then you're just wrapping the lashes, and you can do it quite quickly. Now there's also balms, more advanced balms, which contain like a PVP polymer in them, which is like hair wax, similar to that, which is quite advantageous because it allows you to change the positioning of the lashes on the shields at any time, and they're not locked in place as much as they are when you're using more of the traditional adhesives. So they're really good to use because they're also super quick to wrap the lashes up with. But you tend to have to use it a little differently, maybe reapply a little bit during certain steps. And that's when you have to understand not to apply too much in certain areas that would form that barrier, slow down your treatment process. So I think really understanding how that adhesive works well, and using the right amount is super important to make the whole treatment process really efficient.
What would you suggest to someone who's just learning lifts and let's say they took a training and their lift turned out great, but then the next lift that they do, it didn't maybe process for as long as necessary. How do they structure like a practice day, or even just knowing like what notes to take whenever it didn't come out as one would hope? I guess what I'm asking is how do you suggest somebody new to like get proficient at it? How long does that process take? Should they just like set up a bunch of lifts like back to back and just take notes? Like, what do you think?
Practice is huge, because when you're doing lash lifts, you are working with different types of hair textures on different clients. Some clients have really fine lashes. Their lashes will attach very quickly and they'll also process quickly. You'll work with clients that have super long, thick, resistant lashes, and they're going to need more time. We know the basics of that, um, the science behind that from a lot of our basic lash training. But yeah, basically understand the texture by doing the consult, and then you can do your lash checking techniques like flex checking and set checking and practice those techniques on the different clients. It really is just practicing and going through the motions, I think, and on as many different clients as possible, not unlike when you're learning lash sets as well.
Right.
And you're practicing how to make handmade fans, or you might be practicing how to use pre-mades or different styling techniques that you might be doing. Or if you're working with somebody, that has a different type of eye shape, with lash lifting, you can use different shields or rods that suit different eye shapes as well. The flat shields tend to give a more elongated look, which is quite nice for a certain type of eye shape. Somebody with a hooded eye, for example, can sometimes benefit from more of a rounded shield shape because the lashes come out a little bit first and then up and above the eye line area underneath the brow bone, basically, so that the lashes just aren't sticking straight up and sticking on the skin, underneath the brow area, which obviously doesn't look good. So
Mm-hmm.
there's little things like this that you start piecing together the more and more you practice with it. So it really is like anything in the beauty industry. You have to practice it. If you want to get good at waxing, you have to
Right.
practice and learn. And I think lash lifting, a lot of people have seen it in the beginning and they look at it on YouTube, for example, and they go, oh man, that's easy. I can do that easy. That's just putting something on the eye and putting some lotions on, and I take the lotions off and everything's good. That's all that's to this treatment, right? And it's a lot more than that. And that's why so many educators now are diving into the lash lift space. And I'm so happy that a lot of them are on board with what I was saying a long time ago about lotion processing theory,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of people were saying these products are inconsistent. I'm going to change brands because, I've used this brand and it worked well and now it doesn't work anymore. They've changed the formula. So then they go to another brand and they have a bit of success with that. And then all of a sudden they don't get a good result again. And I've said this for years. It really does come down to the lash texture and how long those lotions have been on for. Had they also been applied correctly? But generally, when people are getting an underwhelming lift, there's a little bit of a curl there or a little bit of a lift there, which means the lotions are doing something. They just haven't usually been left on for long enough, or maybe there was a bit of a barrier there, something that prevented that full extent of the lift. So when we're doing our flex checks, our set checks, that really helps to give you more confidence that the
Mm-hmm.
lotion has done its thing. And there's definitely some tricks around that we dive into a lot more in our advanced training to tell you how to get through that process and get familiar with it and how to use it on different types of eye shapes and lashes that you're working with. So training with a brand, I think, is super important. There's a lot of freelance trainers now that teach you how to use multiple brands, and that's good too. I'm all for as much education in the industry. Education is not really sacred anymore. I think there was this stage where, we tried to gatekeep certain education, but it's not sacred, guys. It's out there. And once it's out there, it's for everyone to use and benefit from in the industry. So really we just need to support each other, and just help get the message out there so that people get great results when they're having lash lifts or when they're having lash extensions.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, when you go and train with certain people and masters or brands, you will learn the nuances from those people, the things that they've picked up along the way. And yeah, training with brands is important as well because there are certain things with the formulations that might be slightly different, some little techniques that happen that are slightly different. And also, the brands usually do the proper training when they're doing a launch of a product, and certain freelancers might not have that information yet. So make sure I would recommend brand training and then also as much education as you can as possible. And obviously, the more you do that and the more practice you do, the more confident you'll be. And, I talk about a lot of this stuff in my session at Lash Boss Summit. So you guys have got to get there. I can't wait. It's going to be super exciting there.
I'm very excited. I'm excited to learn more about lifting from you because you're like the OG, the master, and all of that. So let's say somebody can't make it to Lash Boss Summit, which would be so sad. But let's say they are wanting to take a class now with Elleebana. How can they do that?
Well, we have a lot of educators in the US. We have educators all around the world. We do supply to 60 countries now
Wow.
around the world, which is just incredible. But, if you go to the Elleebana website, we do have a directory there of all of our distributors around the world, and most of our distributors in those countries organize the education as well. But if you follow our Instagram, you'll see so much great education and information and tips that we give away daily on how to get great results. But you can't beat supervised training. You
Hmm.
can't beat having that person in the room with you, holding that tool with you, watching your hand movements, looking at the model that you're about to wrap those lashes with. I mean, it just speeds up the process for you. Online training is great. I love it. It's such a great resource. For years, though, Elleebana was more, and we were pretty old school. We were against online training a bit. We did correspondence training, but we were always pushing people to do hands on training just because we know the benefit of that. And it just accelerates your results and your progression. And that's what we want. We want people picking this up as quickly as possible so they can go out there and have success as quickly as possible. So hands-on training is super important still. And with Elleebana's hands-on training, we have a really good combination now of sort of hands-on training where you've got a lot of online resources as well. But funnily enough, during COVID was when I just bunkered down and went, that's it, I'm doing an online academy
Hmm.
because we were all sort of closed for a little bit, weren't we? And it was great. I created this amazing online course, with my team, and it's been super successful since we launched that. And of course, it's speared us on to do more things in the online space as well. But if you want to do training, obviously with Elleebana, yeah, you can go to the website, follow our Instagrams, and you'll see all the links in there in the bios. Where you can go. You can actually check out a lot of the trainers in the States. We have a great coverage there with a lot of great educators in so many areas across the US. And we also have a head office there in Chicago, where we have a warehouse, and we set that up during COVID, and it's been amazing. Um, having our feet on the ground there, being able to, really look after our salon partners and nurture our distributors there. And the USA has really taken us and Elleebana under its wing. We feel super blessed to just have this incredible bunch of people that we work with there, and all of the salon partners, as I said, that support us and have done so for so long now. We've got people that have been using our products. They're like 10 years in, saying, I've been using your brand for 10 years. I went and tried a few other things. I've come back to you. We love what Elleebana represents, and we love the products, and it does give great results. And you have such a supportive community. I think that's something that Elleebana has also been very synonymous with in the lash industry, is we have created this community where with our educators, we do symposiums for our educators around the world, which is
Hmm.
just for our educators,
Wow.
and they fly in, and it's like a 2-day conference where we're going through all of our education, our deliveries, getting better at what we do and what we can do to support the industry. And then we also have a little bit of fun as well, a bit of a catch up and an inspiration day. And we just did a symposium just a few months ago in Lisbon, in Portugal. And we had this incredible education day. I get motivational speakers in as well, and brought some people from Australia called the Digital Picnic, which are really quirky and super on point with social media marketing. So we did that. And then the next day, we hung out with, 70 educators in tuk-tuks roaming the streets of Lisbon, just bonding and having such a good time together, um, and inspiring each other and having those moments to connect. And you know what? It's a big thing for Elleebana. It's a big part of our ethos and what we like to do. And we invest heavily into that kind of community which resonates then out to our educators, our salon partners, and everything we do. And I say this to my team a lot. It's not just about the products that you offer your people. It is, going beyond that by digging deep on enhancing the customer experience as well, and just really seeing what we can do to personalize and customize things for our community and inspire. And I say that to my team all the time. If it doesn't inspire me, I don't want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I push that all the time. And yeah, it's like anything in business and in life. You just have to, put one foot forward in front of the next, get inspired, and do the right thing by your community as well. And it'll all come back to you, no doubt, if you just keep heading on that right path.
I just have to add to that I've noticed that, especially when I've seen you guys at LashCon, you have like such a big team, and they all seem so genuinely happy and invested. And like, I don't know if that's like internal team. I guess I never really asked, but I assumed it was maybe a mix of that plus educators from all over or something. But I noticed that not every single brand has these like huge teams come out, and I've noticed that that's a thing. So that must speak to how well you treat everybody, and what they're getting as far as opportunity with you guys.
Yes, we are so blessed. I say this quite a lot, and I'm just very grateful that we do have an incredible team of inspirational educators and salon partners and distributors, people that have really supported Elleebana and the ethos behind it, and what we've been striving for. And we love to bring our team to these events and share our community with everyone and help anyone. It doesn't matter if you're using another product or whatever. You'll see Elleebana educators in Facebook forums helping people that are using other products, for example. It is part of our ethos to be there to support the industry that we're in. It's very, very important for us to fly the flag for that. So yeah, we're just very blessed that we've got this incredible group of people. And it's not always about obviously how big your team is or anything as well. There's just so many great inspiring people and brands. I loved LashCon recently. I've been obviously going there for a few years now, and it's great connecting with so many different brands and people as well. I've got just some really close colleagues in the industry that run their own brands, but we have such a good relationship, a very supportive relationship with a lot of these people. And it just goes to show how big the lash industry is and how much it's thriving. And, you need to be supportive with that and continue on that kind of trajectory and be positive about giving back to the industry. And when you do that, you'll see a lot of positivity come back to you. And that's what helps things grow a lot more as well.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for coming on, and I'm so glad to finally have had you on the show. And I'm excited for April to hear everything on stage.
Absolutely, Shelby. It's been a real pleasure. And of course, we are going to have a great time in Austin, Texas. I can't wait. I'll bring my cowboy boots and and my lash lift skills. But it's going to be fun.
Good. Awesome. Well, thank you again. And thank you everyone who tuned in today. I will see you next Tuesday with the next episode.